You might be wondering how I found myself in this situation. About to take lethal damage from the heart on turn 2 with no scaling? And is that a perfected strike? Wait, 4 perfected strikes? Before you rush to the comments to tell me that only newbies take perfected strike, why don't you jump back with me to the start and I'll show you how I almost made a perfected strike deck work on Ascension 17. So after I was gifted Sozu on floor 0, perfected strike shows up on floor 1. Now, perfected strike is not a terrible card to take early on. It's great against Act 1 elites and everything, so I grabbed it. But then I was given the option of pommel strike on floor 2. Another good card to have. It's decent damage, and it allows you to draw cards, which is always great for the Ironclad. But then my first event was useless, because the Lady in Blue offers you potions, and I already have Sozu. And then my next 2 fights didn't offer me anything that really blew my skirt up, and I found myself at the first campfire with only having taken Perfected Strike and Pommel Strike. And I thought, hey, I've got 1, possibly 2 elite fights coming up here. Perfected Strike upgraded early on will help me just blow through these elites. So I did it. And the first elite was a piece of cake. Check this out. Then I got to my first shop, and I was given a membership card. Everyone knows you gotta take membership card if you get it early, so I took it. After I blew through the second elite, I got to another shop, and RN Jesus spoke to me. "Caw-caw," he said to me, which naturally I understood to mean, break all the rules. So I bought Brimstone. Looking forward, I was almost to the first boss with still not much going on. So my biggest hope was really that I would just be able to make it to the first boss and re-roll so I could have an actual decent run. But then here's what happened against the Guardian. I was starting to see that if I could build some kind of block engine and just get things rolling, then I might have a chance. And then I was offered Reaper, and it was full speed ahead. Naturally, I had to break a rule now, so we're going to just completely ignore the fact that I was offered the Snecko Eye, and I took instead the Mark of Pain. And now, before we move on to Act 2 and even more craziness, it's time for you to write caw-caw down in the comments section, along with whatever card you think is broken that you'd like me to make a full run about. Hit the like button so this gets spread to more people, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see every time I release videos about tutorials and breaking the spire. So it's at this point where most perfected strike decks are going to start failing hard. You get cocky. Ooh, I can do 30 damage in 1 hit. Let's just pick up more and more cards that have the word strike in them. What you gotta remember, with Act 2 especially, is you have to scale. Not only your attack, but your defense. And that's what we have to focus on from this point onward. We got Shrug It Off from the first fight in Act 2, which is great because it provides a decent amount of block, and then you also get card draw. With Perfected Strike, you really want to be able to draw Perfected Strike, so Shrug It Off is going to be a key block and utility card here. The first shop of the act gave us another chance to break more rules, so I bought Dolly's Mirror and duplicated Perfected Strike. Next we got another Shrug It Off, which is great, and the next shop I wasn't really sure what to do, but Flame Barrier really isn't a bad block card, so it wouldn't hurt to have at least 1 in the deck. Approaching the halfway mark through Act 2, we've got a couple of elite fights we can look at here, so go ahead and take a look at how this deck fares against Act 2 elites. You really do have to be careful about the order you play your cards, and how aggressive or not aggressive you're going to be, especially when you're up against multiple enemies here. Because as you can see, I didn't even get a chance to take out the little gremlins on the first turn. So now we're going to take a huge hit, and you have to decide how much damage you're going to take, where you're going to take it from, and what you're going to do. So even though we have huge hitters, the choice of cards you play is really going to come into effect and be really important. And here against the Slaver's Elites, you can really see once again how important it is to play the right cards at the right time and know when to take the damage from who. Getting Exhume is probably one of the single-handed best cards we got this entire act, simply because it allows us to play Reaper more than once. And with a deck that uses Brimstone, which naturally is going to mean you're taking a lot of damage, being able to play Reaper twice in a fight can help you to mitigate a lot of that damage that you're inevitably going to take. So if you can hang on to Reaper until the end of the fight, you're going to have more strength, hit harder, and heal more. If you can survive the second Coliseum fight, I always recommend taking it because you do get some really good rewards from it. And at this point in the run, it usually happens only in the later half of Act 2, so your deck should be able to take out the Gremlin Knob in one Slaver. Just make sure to focus on the Knob first because you are going to need to play some skills in order to block the Slaver's hits. I was able to take advantage of Reaper twice right at the end of this fight to get 17 health back, which is really helpful. So you got Reaper and Exhume Reaper, and then getting two really good relics, Lizard Tail and Paper Frog. Make sure to skip Wild Strike here. We don't want more wounds clogging up your deck. Typically Pommel Strike is going to be the best choice here, but since we have Brimstone giving us strength every turn, that is going to scale double with Twin Strike that hits twice. I didn't have much confidence going into the fight against the Automaton here. I still don't have a whole lot of scaling for block, so I was worried that I was going to get stuck when he uses Hyper Beam. But take a look and see how it goes, and just enjoy the fabulous trumpet fanfare for this fight. Getting another Reaper here was an easy pick. It could have taken feed, having the greater heal was more important, and now it's time to break another rule by skipping the Coffee Dripper. I wanted to go with Philosopher's Stone or Calling Bell. They're both kind of rule breakers here, with Coffee Dripper being the main one, but eventually the Calling Bell won out and I got Pantograph, which really helped ease my fears that we could probably make it through Act 3 now. I made a huge mistake here by rushing into the wrong path, which almost made it so I wasn't even going to be able to face the heart. But RNGesus once again had my back, gave me a chance to fight the Guardian again for a rare relic, which grabbing Fossilized Helix is always helpful. And then I got another chance for a rare relic by fighting the two Orb Walkers and got Wing Boots, which of course is going to give me the chance to hop over to the track so I can pick up the green key. I ended up having a couple of just massive turns against the giant head to get the green key, and he also offered me meal ticket. So now I have even more incentive to pursue more shops. The first shop didn't offer a whole lot that was worth anything. Vajra would have been fun, but this is more of a long-term deck, so 1 extra strength at the beginning is kind of just a waste of gold. And so I ended up picking up a Shockwave in expectations of taking on the heart. I skipped over to another shop, and from here I was offered and purchased Orrery to see if I could get any last-minute cards. I grabbed a Disarm to strip some artifact from the heart, got a Shrug It Off for some more block, and then I should have taken Pommel Strike here, but instead for some weird reason I grabbed Spot Weakness. Having Pommel Strike would have been better to boost up my Perfected Strikes even more. I took out one more elite that gave me a completely useless relic at this point of the game, but he did give another Perfected Strike, so why not take it? From here, it was just a nice fun fight against the Time Slug, so enjoy. For those of you who have noticed in this video and in the last couple of videos I've put out, my audio is a little bit off. For this one you can only hear the music, there's no sound effects, there's been some where everything was just off by a little bit of time. I've been tracking down some gremlins in my system and found out that my gaming computer is actually going to need to be replaced. So in the meantime, I have to mix all my audio manually while I save up to replace my gaming PC. But don't worry, I still have plenty of ways of capturing video and making some right now. It's just they're going to be a little less flashy than I was working on before. The fight against the sword and the shield put the icing on the cake for a perfected strike deck by giving us Strike Dummy. That would have been helpful earlier, but it's never too late for it with this deck, and they gave us a twin strike as well, so we might have a small chance against the heart. And here's where we found ourselves at the beginning, facing off against the heart with a deck that has multiple perfective strikes in it. So for all the haters and naysayers out there from the beginning, I hope you learned a few things, and this just goes to show that no matter what you build your deck around, there is always a way you can at least make it through the final boss. And for the rest of you, I hope you learned something about some cards that aren't showcased very often on YouTube. And if you'd like to see more where I try to make decks out of cards that are not standard and not always the best, let me know in the comments below. The most upvoted card comment will get the next video. Thank you all for watching, and enjoy the fight off against the heart.